Hello everyone, I'm Aryan and I'm going to be demoing our project InterviewMe.AI for the category Knowledge Bot. So what we've created is basically an AI agent or system which helps people who are aiming to get internships or jobs for software engineering roles. It helps them to take mock interviews by checking their resumes and also giving them a couple of questions to gauge their understanding on specific concepts that are asked in most SW interviews. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the agent to help me with my resume. Generally, in most interviews, the interviewer will ask you questions about your resume and your education, so we wanted to kind of emulate that. It starts off by asking you a bit about your name and your email, and then after that, it directly extracts your educational experience, your skills, and whatever projects you worked on, and proceeds to ask you questions based on the same. Once we're done collecting some basic information, the bot moves on and it analyzes our resume. From the resume, it extracts all of our projects and skills. As you can see over here, the bot is asking us about convolutional neural networks. That is based off of my resume. The bot was able to extract that from my resume. I've used these in one of my projects, so it uses this to ask me about my experience with this technology. Now we can see that it's turned into a discussion between me and the mock interviewer about the convolutional neural network applications that I've done in my projects. So he picks up a project from my resume which has the skill that we had talked about earlier. It uses the information from the project that it's seen from my resume to ask me questions about it. I explained my project to the interviewer, but it asked me about the architecture and I stumbled. When asked about the architecture of the convolutional autoencoder, I responded by saying it uses a random forest, which is obviously a wrong answer. This results in the mock interviewer explaining to me that both of them are completely different. I made a mistake over here and I tell the mock interviewer that I want to discuss a different project. The bot picks up another project from my resume. It asked me about a general overview about the online proctoring project that I had done. So I explained to it about everything they'd done and we have a short discussion about the project. The bot asked me about the models that I've used and how I've implemented them, and I responded with the appropriate answers. After the project discussion, it moves on and it lets me know that my resume is pretty good, but there's still room for improvement. It gives me some tips to improve. The interview bot also generated a couple of points for me to focus on and how it could improve my answers. It picked up that I made a mistake in my initial project discussion. It also gives me insights on how I can improve my answers and what I should prepare for. After the first resume checking stage, it automatically redirects us to the technical interview stage. We can kick off this stage by giving the bot some of our areas of expertise or some topics that we have prepared well in. In this case, I've told the bot to ask me questions on strings and trees. So it looks like the bot has given us a question with some constraints and even a sample input and output. I didn't really understand this question that well, so I'm going to ask the bot to give me some more test cases and a better description of the problem. I can explain my understanding of the problem like it is in a real interview, and then I can explain one of my approaches and why I think that approach might not be the most optimal one as well. I think of another more efficient approach using a sliding window, and I explain to the agent. The agent asked me to implement my algorithm or whatever thought that I have. So I do so by returning the code for my implementation in the chat box. Since I've successfully completed the first question, the bot moves on to the second question. This time it's given me a contiguous sub-LSM question. I'm not really that sure of how I could approach this, so I decide to ask the interviewer for a hint. The interviewer bot gives me a hint on how I could approach this using contains algorithm. So I successfully implement the code in Python and I send it to the bot through the chat box. This marks the end of the technical interview. The bot has asked me 2 questions in order to gauge my level of understanding of the DSA concepts. It generates some feedbacks and insights on my answers. It lets me know that I have some strengths and I also have some areas where I could improve. It explains to me how I could optimize the code and how I could structure my responses as well. So that wraps up the demo of InterviewMe.AI. We have tried to make a comprehensive mock interview taking platform. We know that it can be tough to find people to take mock interviews for you, especially people who have enough experience and understanding of the same topics as you. That's why we are motivated to make this. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed.